Yo, 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 it's your boy Wes the Tech here to bring you another one of my personal favorite tech tips to help you as an artist grow in your craft. Now, today we're going to go over, should you use Routenote for music distribution, all right? So if you're a recording artist who's possibly looking into using Routenote as your music distribution service, then this is the perfect video for you, because in this video, I'm going to explain what Routenote has to offer versus other music distribution companies and where it actually compares versus other music distribution companies, all right? So first and foremost, Routenote, it hasn't been here for that long. I believe it started in 2019, or 18, somewhere around there. So it's not that old, all right, but it is a music distribution service company, and it does offer music distribution to, of course, the top music distribution providers, all right? So to go down to the specifics of what makes Routenote unique, or what stood out to me when it came to being a music distribution company, there are really three things that I noticed that stood out in Routenote that was different from other music distribution companies. And the first thing that I noticed is that Routenote actually distributed your music, or they can distribute your music to other countries that typical music distribution companies don't. Companies like Asia, Germany, Sweden, Netherlands, places like that, Routenote actually does distribute your music to those countries, which is actually a good thing, especially if you're getting, traction with your music in other countries, all right? So that's the first thing that actually stood out to me when it comes to Routenote as a music distribution company. Even though, a lot of artists, especially when you're an independent artist and you're a beginning artist, you're really just focusing on local and the country you're in. Like if you're in the US, you're more than likely focused on the US first before anything else, all right? But whichever the case, this is a highlight that I believe that Routenote has versus other music distribution companies. The second thing that I noticed that was actually pretty interesting about Routenote is that not only can you choose a specific release date, but you can also choose a specific release time. Now, this is actually pretty cool because, most distribution companies, you could only pick the release date, all right? And, it usually comes out midnight of that day, all right? But with Routenote, you could actually pick the specific time of that day as well, which is pretty cool, especially, if you're one of those artists, you may want to have a release party, and maybe you want to set the release at the same time as the party, maybe 8 p.m. or 7 p.m. that night of the party, and you want it to be released at a specific time of the day, then Routenote will be really, really cool for that, because it does offer that as well. And like I said, this is something that stood out to me that other music distribution companies don't typically have, all right? And the third thing that stood out to me was that Routenote actually distributed your music to SoundCloud, all right? Now, why this is so important is because even though other distribution companies may distribute to SoundCloud as well, SoundCloud is one of those streaming services that I particularly don't like. As a matter of fact, I did a video, a while ago about how SoundCloud is basically not your friend, all right? And the reason I made that video is because SoundCloud pays the smallest amount when it comes to music streaming. And if you just upload your music to SoundCloud, you're not going to get paid anything off of it. You actually have to do some extra steps in order to actually get paid off of SoundCloud, all right? Now, if you haven't watched that video on, me explaining why SoundCloud is not your friend, you could always click on the link above, all right, to watch that video. And I'll also leave a link to that video in my descriptions of this video below as well, all right? But when it comes to SoundCloud, it really is a hassle. So it's really cool to see that this music distribution company actually would distribute your music to SoundCloud and actually get streams for it, even though, like I told you earlier, SoundCloud pays the lowest amount when it comes to your streamings, all right? But those are really the three key things that I noticed that made Routenote different from its competitors, all right? But of course, the most important thing that everyone wants to look at when it comes to music distribution is the actual prices. And that's what I'm going to go over right now, all right? So Routenote basically has three different options when it comes to price points, all right? I'm going to go over them one at a time, starting with the free option, all right? So with the free option, of course, it's unlimited releases, and it also has unlimited artists, which is interesting as well, meaning you can have multiple artists under one account, all right? But with this free option, it's very similar to other free options that other music distribution companies offer, whereas it is free up front, but they are going to take a cut from the back end, meaning they are going to take 15% of your royalties. You're only going to keep 85%. They're going to keep 15%. Now, some artists think this is better. Some artists don't. It really depends on which way you want to go. Of course, when you're starting in the very beginning, you might not want to pay a large amount for your music distribution company, especially when you're not making that much income in your music. So I get those artists who prefer the free option and let them take it in the back end. But if you're an artist who's actually making a lot of money through your streaming services and you have to pay out 15%, that 15% can be a lot. All right. If you make $1,000 off of your streams, Routenote is going to take $150 from that versus just paying the streaming service outright. It'll never be that much. So, it's a give and take on that. And it really depends on how much streams you actually will be getting. All right. So the free option, I'm not a fan of the free options. I'd rather get 100% of my royalties. I'll pay whatever the initial fee is. I'd rather just get 100%. All right. So that's the first option. Now, the second option is the premium option. All right. Now, this is the option where you actually get 100% of your royalties. All right. This is the option that most people will tend to go with. Okay. Of course, you still have the unlimited releases, the unlimited artists. All right. But the way Routenote actually breaks down their pricing when it comes to the premium services is they actually charge you per upload. All right. Now, this is very, very interesting. Of course, let me go over the different amounts. For singles, you have to pay $10 per single. You have to pay $20 per EP. You have to pay $30 per album. And you have to pay $45 per extended albums, meaning every single time you release a single, you got to pay $10. Every time you release an album, you got to pay $30. Now, why this is interesting to me is because this is probably the most expensive way that you could distribute music because you are distributing per release. All right. As a matter of fact, TuneCore used to do this as well, which is why I made a video how TuneCore was robbing you, because I believe any music distribution company that is charging you per release is way too expensive. All right. Because other distribution companies out there, you just pay one flat fee and you can distribute as much as you want. All right. And TuneCore, the video that I did on that was called TuneCore is Robbing You. You can watch that as well by clicking on the link above. And that'll also be in the descriptions below if you want to check that out. But either way, TuneCore has actually changed their prices and they stopped doing this. They're not actually charging you per release anymore. They actually have changed their prices so that it reflects companies like Diddle and DistroKid, where you just pay one fee and you release unlimitedly. All right. So right here, when it comes to this premium option, when it comes to Routenote, and you have to pay per release, I'm not a fan of this. I don't think anybody should deal with any music distribution company that you actually have to pay per release. All right, because it gets expensive, especially if you're an artist who releases all the time. I have an artist that releases a song every single month. All right. So $10 times 12 months, he's paying $120 a year just for his singles, not including the albums and things like that. All right. So as you can see, this could get very expensive. And also, what I'm really curious about when it comes to these price points is, what do they deem as an album? What do they deem as an EP? What do they deem as an extended album? All right. Like, what is the actual numbers? Like from 2 songs to 5 songs, is that an EP? From 5 to 9, is that an album? They don't really tell you up front what's the difference to that is. And if anybody does know the difference, please leave it in the comment section below for those of you who might have that question as well when it comes to Routenote. But either way, this is very, very expensive. This is probably the point that me personally, I would look away from Routenote, because it's just going to cost too much, especially if you're an artist who releases a lot of music. All right. With that being said, I might as well just go over the third option. All right. The third option is the all access option. It's the option that's for the, professional labels and things like that. It's the big Balboski option. It's the option that typically is, it gives you everything, all access, the whole ball and chain, everything. All right. Now, the funny thing about this is that they actually have it listed as custom prices, meaning you have to contact them to actually, and they'll give you a custom price in regards to this. Now, typically, when I see something like custom pricing, or I see something like, call us for details or contact us for details, that typically means one word to me, and that word is simply expensive. All right, so this option I already know is expensive. It's typically not something that an independent artist would want anyway. I mean, they do say it's for record labels, so it's not something that most of us would partake in anyway. All right, so when you're looking at this, you really boil down between the two, the free option and the premium option. All right, but like I said before, when it comes to the premium option, in my opinion, it's not worth it because you actually are going to be paying per release. All right, so when you compare Routenote versus other distribution companies, me personally, I'm definitely taking DistroKid, Ditto, and the new TuneCore prices over Routenote. All right, because Routenote, like I said, pays you per release versus these three options. You pay one fee per year and you can release as much music as you want, whether albums, whether singles, whether EPs, it doesn't matter. They're not charging you per release. They're just charging you one annually fee. All right. But that's pretty much, where I stand when it comes to Routenote. All right. That's the things that I've noticed that made it different, and that's the price point as well. All right. If you have any additional questions in regards to Routenote, or if there's something that you notice that makes Routenote really, really great versus what I've seen, please feel free to let me know. Please feel free to leave comments in the comment section below in regards to it. All right. If you have any questions in regards to, music business, music industry tips, anything music related, also feel free to leave comments in the comment section below. You could also contact me on my handles, WesTheTech Productions, or simply Google WesTheTech and I'll come up. All right. But either way, that's it. I hope this helps. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Follow his place with accent O's like whoa, buddy, I'ma do my thing. Cream of the crop like creme brulee. Reppin' my God, man, I ain't changed, so I ain't trying to hear what you gon' say.